Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us. Let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest ye be wearied and faint in your minds. I want to draw your attention just for a moment before we get into the heart of the message, into verse 2, when the Hebrew writer says, looking unto Jesus, and he describes him in a very interesting way. He is the author and the finisher. In other words, the author simply means he's the creator. He's the writer and the finisher. Now, I don't know how many here like to read. At different times in my life, I may read a lot. I'm talking, novels or fiction. Other times, I may go a long period of time where I don't read much. But has anybody, if you're a fiction reader, have anybody ever had maybe a series of books, a certain character, and that author will write several books based on that same character, and after a while, you're like, I don't want him to do that. That's not what I don't want him to do that. I want him to do this. And then I have to remember, I'm not the one writing the book. The author, the creator, gets to decide what happens to that character. And I don't always like it. And I watch movies all the time that I really don't like how they end. And it gets even worse on a television series. I've invested 8 years in this. This is not the way that it should end. The reality sometimes in our Christian walk, we have to remember who not only the author and the creator of our lives, of this story, of all that we know, but he is also the finisher. He's the keeper. He is the deciding factor in all things. And so as I mentioned this morning about trusting him, it's easy when we can give praise to the Lord. And we can go back to Genesis chapter 1 and we can preach in the beginning God. Those important words at the very beginning of the Bible. And I always say that if you can't believe those first 4 words of the Bible, that in the beginning God, then you are unable to believe anything else that comes after it. Because I believe that he's the creator of this world. I believe he's the creator of all the galaxies, the universe, as far as they can get technology to see. And I'm sure that will continue to grow and they can explore the far chasms of the unknown. But it is all within God's scope and he created it all. So sometimes people begin to ask the question, well, do you believe in that there's intelligent life out there? Well, maybe, because there's not much here. I don't believe a lot of hocus pocus and things that I see, what people claim they saw, because I've seen things that I thought was one thing and then saw it the next day and realized it was something else. I've seen things in the dark and imagined that something was there and realized later it was nothing like what I thought. If I can't trust my own mind and my own eyes, I'm not going to trust what a lot of other people see. But people ask, and I'll just say this, I don't know. I don't know what might be out there, but I do know this. If there's something out there, I know bless God who created it. And by the way, no, I don't think there is, but I'm just saying. I don't want you to leave here thinking I'm nuts. He's the author. He's the creator of all things. He's the sustainer, but he's the finisher. And there are days when I don't understand why this world is allowed to continue the way that it is. And it has ramped up in recent years. And I know that it seems like with every gray hair that I have less and less patience for the things that I see that are coming along. Is that just something that comes along with old age? I'm not going to look at anybody to tell me if that's true or not. But I just have less and less patience with the things that I see that are absolutely insane to me of what the world is accepting. And I think, God, I don't understand why this is allowed to continue. But then God reminds me through his word, there has always been sin. Adam and Eve were in a perfect and absolute perfect Garden of Eden. Do you know that Eve was not going to have to bear children? I thought I'd get amens from you. And do you know that Adam was not, he was in charge of, he had dominion, but I don't believe he was going to have to work, quote unquote, work. Because nowhere I've ever been, Jared, was perfect if I had work. I hear people say they love their job. I've never loved my job. Never. I've had some jobs, I have one now that I hate less than others. And I'm thankful for it. But my point is, if I loved it, I'd be there right now. But as soon as I can go home, guess what I do? I get my stuff together and I leave that place because I don't love it. It just provides for me what I need. And they were in a perfect place where everything was given to them, handed them, and still human flesh found a way to mess it up. And God reminds me that that is what human nature is about. And it is only going to continue to get worse and worse. But I'm glad not only is He the author and He's the creator, but He's the finisher. And God has the final say. And and by the way, the end of days, when we talking about the coming of Christ, it's not dependent, by the way, upon how good or bad we are. God already knows when He's coming back, and He has His reasons for whatever that day is. I'm not here to preach on prophecy. But I want to throw that in about the author and the finisher of our faith, for who joy that was set before Him endured the cross. That joy of seeing sinners come to be saved. That joy of fellowship with the church. You realize we are the desire of God's heart. The church. He sent His Son to die for sinners, but He sent His Son to die that the church might be established. That's how important we are to God. And He created a place for us that if we die in the faith in Christ, that we get to go there and enjoy that with Him. That's how much He loves us. And the Bible tells us right here that Jesus, for the joy that was set before Him, that joy of us, and that joy of knowing that sinners come to a place of repentance, and that joy that people can escape hell and go to heaven, He endured the cross for that joy that was set before Him. That's why He did it. He did it for love. And so wherefore, seeing we are also compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses. So what's that mean? So here's how I've always heard it explained, and then even when I studied it, everything that came up says the same thing. And so I'm just going to explain what I have always studied. You can believe something else if you want. This is not doctrine. It's not going to change heaven or hell or the blood or virgin birth, right? This isn't doctrine. But when the Hebrew writer says, wherefore seeing we are also compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, that it is literally talking about all of those that have went on before. Those that have died in the faith are a cloud of witnesses. Now, I look at that and I think it quite possibly mean that. A lot of people know a lot more. But I know this. We also live among a great cloud of witnesses right here. One of the joys in my life have been the people that have become like family from the church. As Bonnie mentioned in her testimony, people that took them in and they're though no relation, people that became like family to them. And how many stories do I tell as your pastor? Some of you probably feel like you grew up at Morgantown Church. You've never even been there. Because I tell so many stories. They were such an impact in my life. And they were not like family. They were my family. Though no blood, they were family close or closer than my family. At Beechford, they are all family. Jamie and I just married in. But even I had some blood family there. But that church became my family. Smith Chapel, 6 years there as a pastor, became my family. 9 years. Can you believe it'll be 9 years this spring since we started the church? And this church has become my family. We feel like family to one another. So I believe, yes, I can see and agree that we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. That there are those in the balcony of heaven that are cheering us on. They may not see the terrible things on this earth. I don't know exactly what they can see and what they can't see. But if they can see us, I believe they are cheering us on and encouraging us and saying, you can make it. Just go another day, Walter. Just preach another message. Just pray another prayer. Just go on another day. I can see them in my eyes, in my mind's eye, and they're encouraging us. It's worth it. If you'll just get over here, oh, don't give up now. I know you're discouraged, but you can make it. Of all the sporting events that I've been to, and I've been to a lot, and I've been to all kinds of things. When Bethany and I, when I was a youth pastor, we would go and try to support the kids. Man, I've been to band concerts, and I've been to just about everything. And some of them I actually enjoyed. But why were we there? We were there to encourage, to support. But of all the things that I've never been to, and Nick mentions it, and I think he was pretty good at it, it's cross country. Well, newsflash, I didn't run cross country. And I didn't miss a thing. But Noah ran in junior high, and then he ran his senior year. He just wanted to check off all the sports. And he wanted to get a letter in all of them, so he ran cross country. But when he ran in junior high, I had never even been to a cross country meet, even when I was in school. I thought it was so ridiculous, I'm not even going up there to watch it. Just run all day long out in the field and in the woods. I didn't have any interest in it. So even as a kid, I'd never been to one. So I took Noah to his first three. Maybe he rode the bus, but I went to, when he was in 7th grade, to watch him run cross country. I'd never been to one, and the oddest thing happened. I don't know if any of you know what I'm about to say. Again, football game, basketball. I've been to a million basketball games in my life, and volleyball. And it's just custom. We're here to win. I'm here to cheer for my team and boo against that team. I don't want them to do anything good. Listen, I coach kids girls softball. I have stood and rooted that a 7-year-old girl strike out. I didn't say it out loud, but in my heart I was like, I'll never strike out. And then I think, God help me. That's what sports does to us. I'm like, I can't believe I'm happy. This little girl's crying. She's struck out. But I didn't want my team to lose. You've done the same thing. Don't look at me like that. But at that cross-country meet, the exact opposite happened. And it threw me off. Those kids would come around maybe the last turn. It wasn't just coaches. It was parents. It was just people that was there. They began to cheer those kids on, no matter what school they were from. You can do it. You can do it. And they were cheering. And you could see they hit that last stretch, and they could begin to hear. And Calvin's a very good cross-country runner, and maybe I should ask him to testify tonight and tell me what it's really like. But you can see on their face when they get there and they begin to see the people, and they can begin to hear the cheers, that they begin to pick up that step just a little bit, and they put in that last kick, and a lot they'll begin to cheer and tell them, catch the one in front of you. Catch the one in front of you, which is all a trick, because when they do, they start saying, now catch another one. The point is, though, their steps get stronger, and they get more confident, and they get their win, and they begin to put everything they've got to get to the finish line. And church, I want to encourage you on this Sunday night that though you may be tired, and you've been through the valley, and you've ran through the woods, and you've ran in those stretches where no one can see, and nobody even knows where you're at. You go to a cross-country meet, and you cheer them as they leave, and you wait 15 minutes till you see them again. There's times when we're running and we're back in the woods and nobody sees where we are. And we feel like we're all alone. I want you to know, even though that we can't see and sometimes we can't feel, that they are still there, that our cloud of witnesses is still there, and they're cheering us on. You can make it. You can go another mile. You can make it. And so we are surrounded with so great a cloud of witnesses. Because of that, because we know what is waiting on us, then he says, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us. Let us run with patience the race that is set before us. He says it so clear that every weight and sin which does so easily beset us. When we allow sin into our lives, and I know that I preached pretty strong on that this morning, but it's because I see what it does to people's lives, and I've seen what it does in my own life. It doesn't take long that it very easily will beset us and slow us down and hinder our walk with the Lord. It weighs us down. It slows us down, and it makes us weary. When I mentioned what little bit I did get this out a couple Wednesday nights ago, I mentioned about running track, and so I'm not going to mention that about what they wear. I will say this: when you're running with a load, it doesn't just slow you down. It wears you out. And so some people for training, now I got back into running this spring and summer, and I can't run like I could 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But I know one thing, I've seen these crazy people. I mean, they're nuts. They put these big packs on them, right? They weigh like 30 pounds, 40 pounds, to make it even harder. I'm going to say that again. They put, because that weight isn't just about slowing them down, it makes it harder. It wears you out. So from a training aspect, the point is, it makes it even harder. You're going to train even harder. And then when you take those off, and so on and so forth. No, thank you. I'll just take. I figure I'm packing enough. I'm packing enough extra as it is. I don't need to add any to it. But the Hebrew writer is saying those things. It's not just going to slow you down. It's going to weigh you down. And many times when we find ourselves spiritually worn out, if we take a look around, and I'm not saying that everything that comes in, as I preached this morning, I'm not saying everything that comes in your life is because you did something wrong or that it's your fault. But there are times, if we're honest with ourselves, if we'll just take a good look around and say, one of the reasons I am struggling and one of the reasons that I am worn out is because I've been carrying a load that I should have let go of a long time ago. I've been carrying things around, and I found myself wore out again, and here I am, all over again. And so it doesn't just beset us, it doesn't just slow us down, it makes us weary. And not only is it a physical strain, it is a mental strain as well. Starting off on that journey or running that and beginning to think, there are times, has anybody ever just got up and think, man, I'm tired, I haven't even started what I got to do today, and I'm tired already. Tired from just thinking about it. So I got on, probably one of the biggest mistakes in my life, I got on Facebook, I think in 2009. And I look back, 2009, 2010, on my, what am I trying to say? Thing that pops up. My memories. And, I mean, a lot of people share memories all the time. And I always want to comment and say, I didn't care the first time. I don't want to see it. I'm just kidding. But I look back at 2009, 2010, and man, you would not believe the days that my status actually was this. Work today, and I look back and I think, why did we do that? Like we got to give out. I'm surprised they didn't use like bullet point. Here's what time I got to be here. It's like we were putting our itinerary for the day, but a lot of people do. Would say, work today, then go to the Y, and then home, and then got revival tonight at such churches, an hour away, I'm 15 or whatever. And then there were Saturdays when I was a full-time pastor would say, going to visit somebody in the hospital, or going to visit somebody, going to the Y to work out, going to this to run, going to Columbus to do this, going to this thing and this, and then going to revival tonight. I'm like, there are days I look at that sometimes I think, no way. I get tired, but again, I was a lot younger, I guess, and had a lot more energy or a lot more want to. But sometimes I look at that and I can get mental drain just by imagining have to do all those things. And there are times where the enemy is trying to get us to get so many things in our lives, and sometimes even things that are sinful, that we are weighed down mentally. We think, I can't go on like this. There preaching and they're having a good time and they're shouting and boy, the singers were good and the preaching was good and they don't know that I've got all these things. And he's letting you know, set aside all those things. You can't mentally carry all these things in your life. You've got to let them go. And not only that, the things that we hold on to, not only do they slow us down, do they weigh us down, and they're a mental strain, but it's also more things that the enemy can grab a hold of. And I don't mean to turn this into a sports sermon tonight, but I remember years ago watching a football game on television, and I began to really notice those linemen, those big guys in the middle, and those defensive linemen especially. Their job is to go find the ball and tackle that guy, or to go and get the quarterback on the ground. And so a lot of time they'll take everything. They'll wear the tightest jersey that they can wear over those pads, and they'll even take their sleeves and tie them and get them up as tight as they can. They're not allowed to do this, but a lot of them will even secretly, they'll take stuff and rub on them that makes them slick. So when they're trying to run by that offensive lineman can't grab a hold of them and slow them down. Don't we see what he's telling us is to not gather these things upon us, because it's just giving the enemy something to get a hold of. When we have sin in our lives, we have things that we have encumbered upon us, things that are not of God. What's the first thing the enemy's going to do? He's going to use it against you. We think, and all of us have been there, we think we can get by with this thing. We think that nothing will happen, but the first chance that he gets, he'll use it against us. Anything you say, anything you do can be used against you. And he'll do it. And so let's set aside all these things. Let's set aside sin, because you don't want to carry not only the sin, but you also carry the injuries and the scars and the regret. There's a story, I think it was Brother Deb at Beach Fork would tell about the scars of sin. And I used to share this a lot when I was young and traveling and preaching. You can take I'm not going to tell exactly like I've heard it told, I'm just going to shorten it to make the point. I can take a piece of wood and I can drive nails all on that piece of wood. I can drive 8 nails, 10 nails, a dozen nails, and drive them in there. And then I can take a hammer and turn it over and pull every one of those nails out. Aren't you glad that God can remove the nails from our life? Oh my. See, that nail represents sin. And as that sin gets driven, God, through his grace, he can remove every one of those and cast those nails as far as the east is from the west. But you know what's left behind. The evidence of the nail in the wood. Even though the nail has been removed, the scar is left behind. Every one of us, no matter how long we serve the Lord, there are things in our life that we have scarred. It was our own sin, our own doing. God has forgiven. He doesn't bring it up against us. He doesn't tell us about it. He's forgotten it. But because of those things, we have to live. And there's a mental fight to accept. So many people I've seen in almost 25 years now of preaching, I've seen people come to the altar, and so many of them have said, I just can't forgive myself. They can't get over the scars of sin. Folks, if there's ever a warning to tell us to stay away from sin, not just to think, well, God can forgive. Of course he can, and his grace is sufficient. But sin will always leave its mark. And we don't want those injuries and things to easily beset us. As we stand tonight all over the